To Iraq now, the Sunni insurgency in that country continues. Of course, it is spearheaded by the group known as ISIS, continuing to seize towns, tightening their grasp on the country. Jonathan Schanzer is the Vice President of Research for the Foundation for Defense of Democracy, coming to us today from Washington. John Kerry, as you know, Jonathan, U.S. Secretary of State, is in Baghdad talking to Iraqi leaders, trying to bring together, I guess, a consensus so that, the minorities, the Sunnis and the Kurds, can work together with the majority, the Shias. How realistic is that, do you think, to actually happen?
Well, look, I don't think it's something that's going to happen right away, and I certainly don't think it's going to be something that happens because of U.S. Pressure or U.S. efforts. I think, quite frankly, I think that the United States has lost a lot of credibility in Iraq. We obviously decided that we had had enough of our project there, that we had lost enough blood and enough treasure, and the average Iraqi has now viewed the United States as having retreated and perhaps even failed in its attempts to reform Iraq. And so now with this crisis ongoing, with John Kerry back in the country, I think you have a sense now that a lot of these leaders don't trust Mr. Kerry and really are not necessarily going to be willing to work together just because the United States says so.
Let's talk about Nouri al-MalikiF. Such a linchpin in all of this, the Iraqi Prime Minister. Now there's this talk, and you've no doubt heard about it, that it's time for him to go. I mean, again, are we in a stage where we're talking about not regime change, but leadership change? Because for whatever reason, he doesn't seem to be able to handle this issue, so out with the old, in with the new. Does that make sense for you to go down that route?
Well, look, I mean, I think it's fair to say that Nouri al-Maliki is not exactly our ideal leader in Iraq, and not just for the United States or for Canada, but I think many in Iraq would probably question his ability to lead and to do so without corruption and all the other charges that have been leveled against him. But the question is, who do you have instead? The elections that just recently took place that effectively brought Maliki back for another term, I think affirms what we already know, which is that there is a dearth of leadership in Iraq, that despite all of the work that we've done to reform that political system, what we have not done a good job of doing is bringing about new leaders who can effectively harness the Iraqi political system.
You got 300 military advisors that will be there to try and help stabilize the Iraqi military. But it's really shocking, Jonathan, when you look at the numbers here. 5,000 to 6,000 sort of members of ISIS versus this huge, well-equipped Iraqi army.
Yeah, I mean, look, the difference between these armies is that ISIS is motivated. ISIS is, the fighters there are not afraid to die. They are radical in nature. Some of the acts of violence that they have carried out have sent shockwaves through the ranks of the Iraqi military. They have certainly sent fear through the Iraqi military. And so that's how you're going to have these groups, a group like ISIS advance. Look, there are also some questions about whether ISIS is getting some help from Sunnis on the ground, from former Baathists. We've seen reports along these lines, so they could be getting help elsewhere. But look, the only real takeaway here is that the military that we have trained, that we have worked so hard to stand up in Iraq, has been melting away every time they've been challenged by this radical group, and that bodes very poorly for the future of Iraq.
Jonathan Schanzer coming to us from Washington with the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. Thanks for your time, sir. Great to get you on as always.
Pleasure.